All right, so that is Rebecca Kiesling, who has joined us before. She lost her 2 sons to fentanyl overdoses back in July of 2020. She testified in front of Congress on the fentanyl epidemic. Last week, 110 pounds of ketamine were found in the luggage of a British man arriving at the Detroit Metro Airport. At $90 per gram, the load was worth an estimated $4 million.
For more, let's welcome in Michigan mom Rebecca Kiesling and Custom Care Medical Dr. Frank Contessessa. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Rebecca, you lost your 2 sons to accidental drug overdoses. Just talk about the scope of these overdoses and why are they happening right now? We're seeing just this influx.
Well, first of all, if I may, they weren't overdoses. My sons didn't die of their drug of choice. They were poisonings, and that's a very important difference. Matthew Perry, for example, I mean, if he was intending to get ketamine, then, that would be considered an overdose. But when you think you're getting Percocet or you think you're getting any other type of drug, I mean, I'm meeting parents whose kids, had water that someone else had put fentanyl in it, or they were vaping THC and it had fentanyl in it. Those are not overdoses. Those are poisonings. And I think that distinguishing is extremely critical. Mm-hmm. I'm also very concerned what's happening with the cause of death and manner of death in these cases. Some parents never get justice like we did because you have coroners or medical examiners, is what it's called in Michigan, who do a finding that the manner of death was accidental, like you had in Matthew Perry's case. Well, somebody supplied it to him, and that should have been negligent homicide, not accidental.
It should be criminal. And that news about Matthew Perry just coming down. Dr. Frank, what is ketamine?
Good question. Good morning, Rob and Charlotte, and my sincere condolences to Rebecca on your loss. So ketamine has been around for quite some time. It was developed as a short-lasting anesthetic, actually a veterinary anesthetic, and then it's eventually evolved into human use. It's interesting. It's one of the few drugs that has actual legitimate medical use, but has become very popular as a street drug, as a club drug. So ketamine is used medically for certain types of severe depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. It's what's called a dissociative anesthetic. That means it causes sort of a break between the conscious and the physical body. So the person experiences almost like a near-death experience. This can be useful in the setting of severe depression to help them out of a spiral of depression. It's like a resetting the system. But it's also become a street drug, a club drug, a date rape drug. And in Matthew Perry's case, he was using it medically with IV infusions, but I believe the coroner found it in his stomach as well, which means he was taking it orally, probably recreationally as well. But it's a really interesting drug.
Yeah, so just to follow up real quick.
Oh, go ahead, Rebecca.
What Matthew Perry got was actually esketamine, and so it's a different derivative. What he got was that medical grade that's supposed to be used as anesthesia in hospitals, and that is not what is used for substance use disorder treatments.
So Dr. Frank, I want to follow up. Is ketamine the next fentanyl? What we're seeing, how much of it we're seeing?
Well, I certainly hope not, and maybe doing segments like this can bring awareness, because I think a lot of people, everybody's heard of fentanyl, and I think a lot of people, they don't have the awareness of what ketamine is and the dangers of ketamine. So it's a tough one, because the medical use is also a bit controversial. Not everybody agrees that this is the right thing to do. It's a very specialized type of psychiatrist who does this. So I hope it doesn't turn into a drug of abuse, but it's getting there.
Rebecca, we've got about 45 seconds left, and we're so thankful to you for coming on, especially this time of year. I can't imagine how difficult it is to not have your 2 boys with you. What do you want parents out there and grandparents to know?
Well, first of all, as the doctor just said, a lot of people are hearing about fentanyl now. And so I think a lot of people think, yeah, don't do fentanyl. Okay, so few people are actually seeking out fentanyl. What's happening is people are getting all kinds of drugs, and it's in everything now. everything. I'm in support groups with tens of thousands of parents who have lost their children. And like I said, sometimes it could be a toddler who gets access to it. Just
Right.
grains, that's all it could take to kill someone. There was a baby who died in an Airbnb laying on a bed.
Yeah, we covered that. And you know what never gets talked about as part of this? And again, we could talk about this for the rest of the hour. It's that the majority of this, something like 90%, is made in China and comes into the U.S. over our wide open southern border. So you can draw a straight line to what's been happening in this country, and we're setting records every year with overdose deaths. You can draw a straight line to that and China and the border crisis and right to the White House. And do we ever hear from the White House about this? Of course not. Rebecca, final thought, 15 seconds.
We can warn people, but we do need to protect our population.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. And warning isn't enough. Like I said, one death should be enough to sound the alarm. We need to protect our people and secure the southern border.
Rebecca Kiesling, Dr. Frank Contessessa, have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
You all too. Thank you.
Okay.